Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Today we'll be creating a very simple web application with Flutter, and the interesting thing is that we are not going to create one small part of UI, or we are not going to just develop the UI part or just the functional part or just one feature. We are going to create an entire web application. Now I know it's a bit funny to call it a complete web application because it is essentially a very simple thing, but then again that is how we learn, right? So we will be going through the entire process of how you approach a problem in Flutter, be it any problem, be it a UI problem or a functional problem, and then how you break it down, and then you find solutions wherever you are stuck, and then you go ahead and complete the web application and then deploy it, right? So I haven't yet created what we are going to create now because I wanted it to be a live experience so that you get to feel how things are done, and how to approach the problems which you might and you will definitely face while creating Flutter applications for the web or for the mobile or for desktop, whatever applications you are creating, right? So I can show you the timestamp right now. It is Tuesday 9:10 a.m. and I haven't yet created, but I will switch to the preview of the application right now so that you get to see what you will be building. At the time of showing you this preview, I've already recorded the entire development process for the video, and I've completed this application and also deployed it on the internet over here. So you are in a store for some really exciting development stuff, and I know this is a very simple application, but yeah, I mean, it will teach you a lot of things, I hope at least. And so what this application does is that we have created this simple Flutter web application that has simple UI, simple state management, simple network interaction, but it is a fully functioning, completely interactive Flutter web application. So what it does is that if you ask a question over here, and it must be a yes or no question. If you ask a question over here, say, are you listening to me? Then what the application will do is that as soon as you hit click get answer, then it will hit an API endpoint and it will retrieve either a yes or a no. So it is that simple. It will either retrieve a yes or a no and an appropriate GIF for it accordingly. And this is completely random, so it is not doing any processing or something. It is just hitting that endpoint, and that endpoint is giving it a random yes or no answer with a relevant GIF that it is going to display to us. We also have this reset button over here that if you click, then the entire app resets itself. Also, we have added some sort of validation to the web application so that if I click on get answer and without asking a question, that then it will give me an error in the snack bar at the bottom that you can see that says please ask a valid question. Also, if it just doesn't check for the empty strings over here in this text field. It also checks if it is actually a question or not, and the parameter for that is if it ends with a question mark or not. So if you ask a question and, like, for example, are you hearing this, and if I do not suffix it with a question mark, it will still give me this error because I need to ask a question. And once I've asked the question, then voila, we will have our answer, right? So, and then we can just click on reset to reset this app, and that is what this app does. But the process of creating this entire application, I'll be creating the Flutter project from scratch, and you will be learning the entire process, all the problems that we face and everything from scratch. So stay tuned and enjoy the video. Thank you. Have had a chance to preview the application that we are going to build. Let's jump right to it. So the first of all, if you go to this page, flutter.dev/docs/get started for the web page, then you will see that Flutter is not yet available on the stable channel. You have to change your channel to beta in order to use it. So what you should do is open up your terminal and over there you should first run the command flutter channel beta. After that you should also run flutter upgrade, so you are on the latest version of the beta channel as well. After that you need to enable this flag that says flutter config dash dash enable web. If you don't do this, then the command flutter create will not create the web folder inside your newly created flutter projects. So you need to enable this. I can quickly show it to you in the terminal. If I open up my terminal, then if I execute Flutter Doctor, then you will be able to see that I am currently on the beta channel already, and as of the recording of this video, I have the latest channel as 1.19.043 pre, and I also have the enable web flag already enabled, so I can run Flutter devices, and once I run Flutter devices you should be able to see Chrome over there, right? So you can see that Chrome is already listed as a recognized Flutter device, and hence we can run Flutter applications for the web. Okay, so the first thing that we will do over here is I will go to my projects directory. You can go to whichever directory you want, wherever you are going to create your Flutter project. I will switch to my projects directory. Then the command that I will run is flutter create, and then whatever I want to name it. So I want to name this application I know everything, because ultimately the web app is going to take a question and then return a yes or no response, right? So it is safe to assume that the web app knows everything and whatever it says is correct. Okay, so yeah, we are creating a divine web application. So let's call it I know everything. If only I can spell everything. So yeah, flutter create I know everything, and we can just hit enter, or you can add an additional command over here that says that also specifies the organization. Now it may not be necessary to do it over here, because we are not creating a mobile application, but by using this flag over here, what you can do is you can specify something like this. So instead of the com.example default organization, Flutter will create the project according to your organization. We will skip this part for now because we are creating a web application primarily. If I hit enter, then Flutter will create an I know everything project for me. Now what I can do is I can just cd into my newly created project, and then I will launch Visual Studio Code from here, and then it will take over from there, right? So I now have VS Code launched, and as you can see that we also have a web folder over here which has an index.html file. Now what Flutter does is that Flutter creates what we call a single page application, right? So there is just one index.html page, and inside there Flutter is whatever content you program into Flutter, whatever you code in Flutter, that is going to be populated inside this index.html page. Okay, and in fact you can edit this index.html page. You can supply all the different kinds of meta tags for SEO purposes, so that whenever you first open the page and while Flutter is loading, people do not get to see some lowercase title or something like that which says example or something like that. So you can make it more professional. We will get to that later during the deployment part. Right now, if we go to the lib folder, we have the same old counter application. Let's just first run it, right? So first time when you run it, it will say launching on Chrome, because see, Chrome will already be selected over here. For me it was selected. If it is not for you, then you can just click on this and you will see a variety of different options, and then you can go ahead and select Chrome. Okay, And if you don't see Chrome there, then that means that the enable web flag has not been set, and you need to do that first. Once you have launched the Flutter application on the Chrome browser, one thing that will immediately hit you is how fast it was, right? Because the build time and the build process is much simpler for Flutter Web than it is for Flutter Mobile. So yeah, that is a considerable difference that you will notice almost immediately. Now, as you can see, it is a completely functional working Flutter application running on my Chrome, and I can hit the increment button over here to actually increment the counter. And we have the same old debug banner and everything is there. Also hot reload and everything also works. So the next thing that we are going to do is what everyone does, and it is the most exciting part of the Flutter, of any Flutter video or any Flutter tutorial if you ask me. And what we are going to do is we are going to press Ctrl A to select everything, and then we are going to hit delete to delete everything. Next up, we will start to create our application from scratch. So what I can do is I can import material, and then I will have to write a main function which will have a run app function which will take in my root widget, which I haven't yet created. So let me just quickly create my root widget. My root widget will be named my app, or let's say I know everything app. Okay, and over here at the root of my Flutter application will be the material app widget. Okay, and now I can pass the I know everything app in an instance of the I know everything app inside my main method. So inside my I know everything app, I now have a material app created. Also the test folder will now throw an error, and tests are beyond the scope of this tutorial, so let's just delete it. Although it is not a very good practice, but let's just do it. Another exciting part. Anyways, so now what we can do is, inside our material app, first thing that we should do, and what I do, is that I disable the debug show checkboard banner, and that debug banner has to be gone because I can't see it. And the next thing, you can specify the title property. So whatever title property you specify over here is what is going to be visible over here as the title of the web page, right? So if I specify I know everything over here, then, and when I save, then the title should automatically be updated over there on the top of the tab to say I know everything. So another thing that we definitely need is our home screen. So the first screen that we want to paint inside our Flutter application as soon as it is run, and we will create that just now, and let's call it the question answer screen, because that is what it is going to do, right? So, and I know for a fact that it is going to be a stateful widget, so I will create it that way. Or maybe, yeah, let's just create it over here. It is a very simple application, but we can also create it in a separate file. So let's do that instead. Let's create another folder named screens, if we need to add another screen afterwards, or pages. After that, inside pages, I will create a new file and call it question answer.dart. Now inside question answer.dart, I can create a new stateful widget. First of all, I'll import the material package. Then inside question answer.dart, I can create a new stateful widget and call it question answer page. Okay, so we have created this, and this will have a scaffold. Now inside main.dart, I can provide it with an instance of the question answer screen, or the question answer page, sorry. And now if I go over here, then I should have a blank scaffold, and as you can see, the title of this page has now been updated to reflect the new title that we have supplied inside our material app. Okay, Now let's just forget about our main.dart file and focus on the question answer screen. So we are on the question answer screen now, and let's start by supplying an app bar. So we can supply an app bar the usual way, just like we do for mobile platforms. And this time what I want to do is I want my app bar to say I know everything definitely. Oh sorry, it doesn't take a string, it takes a text widget or any other widget basically. I would like to supply it a text widget. Okay, and once I've supplied it a text widget, it should automatically create an app bar for me. So yeah, that's there, our good old app bar, but I want it to be a little bit different and a little bit simpler. So I don't want the elevation to be there. Yeah, elevation should not be there, so that's immediately better. And you can also change the background color. So maybe colors.teal, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's not super amazing, but yeah, it's definitely better than the default one because we get bored of the default one. So yeah, it's I know everything with the teal color now. Also, um, now that we have our app bar done, let's go over to the body of the scaffold. So if we sorry, the body will not take another scaffold. It will take a column. In our case, it will just take a column, and inside the column we will set the main axis alignment to be center and also the cross axis alignment to be center. So cross axis alignment dot center. We want everything just to be centered on the screen. Now we'll start with specifying the children property of our screen. So we know that we need a text field so that we can enter something, right? And we can ask a question, enter a question or any other sentence. So what we are going to do is, yeah, what we are going to do is we are going to create a text field. As soon as you create a text field, you should now be able to see a text field on your screen, but it takes the entire width of the screen and it doesn't look good. So what we're going to do is that we will wrap this text field inside a container, because why not? Containers, in my opinion, containers are one of the most powerful widgets in Flutter, which you can use to do almost everything. So, and then what we'll do is that we'll give it a width property. Now what we could do is that give it a hard coded width property like 200 and it would still work. But the thing is that why give it a hard coded property, why give it a hard coded value if we can actually make it a variable of the screen width, right? So how do we do that? We access the width of the screen, media query dot of context dot size dot width, and then if we save it, then you can see that currently it is the complete width of the screen. So what we can do is add a fractional multiplier to it, and now it won't be the complete width of the screen, but it will only be 60% of the screen width. So as you can see, it is 60% of the screen width. But that again is too big, I think. So let's just keep it 50% of the screen width. Now we are going to be needing certain buttons. So let's just prototype them quickly. We are going to need two buttons basically, one for submit and one for reset. Okay, so what you can do to easily create buttons is you can do something like raise button dot icon, and it will immediately give you a button with fancy elevation, highlight properties and all that. So inside your label you can give it a text widget and say ask question or get answer, and we can give it an icon Do we need an icon? I don't think so. So let's just skip the icon for now. And now this will be a child property. Also on pressed, we are going to handle that soon enough. So we now have a raised button. And now that you can see that the column has centered everything. Before, when only the text field was there, it was stuck at the start of it, right? That is because of the size of the column. The size of the column was only limited to the first child. Now that we have more than one children, then it will automatically adjust the main axis alignment, the cross axis alignment also. All right, we can have another button that says reset. So now we have two buttons, but we'd also like to have some space between them. So I can easily put a sized box with a width of say 20, and now I also have space between them. So everything is fine. I can also have a sized box to have some space between the text field and the row of buttons. This time it will have a height property, not a width property. So already looking good, right? Yep. So but the text field, okay, but I mean it's good, but we can make it better. So what we can do is we can provide it a decoration property. Now the decoration parameter inside the text field constructor takes something called an input decoration, which we can give it an input decoration instance, and inside that input decoration we have so many options. So the first thing that I want to do is give it a label, because the person visiting our website or visiting our web app should know exactly what to put inside there, right? I can give it, say, ask a question, and then we can also give it a border to make it a material, to give it a material feel. Basically I can give it an outline input border. Oh, I also have to add comma over here. And as soon as I do this and I reload, what you will see is that the text field is automatically so much better, right? And when I click on it, then it will give me this blue highlight, but my app bar is teal in color and my text field is blue in color, so it doesn't really make sense. So what we should do is we should also change this color to the teal color. The fastest way to do that, in my opinion, would be to provide a theme property to our material app, which will take in a theme data object. Inside the theme data object, we can provide the primary color as colors, or we can provide the primary swatch in itself as colors dot teal. And now if we reload, we should have a teal colored highlight on the text field. So much better, right? Also, these raised buttons look ancient right now, and I don't want ancient buttons. Also, I would love to have some rounded corners, not a lot, but some. So I will go to my raised button object and I will try to add some border radius. But then if you try to add some border radius, you will find that there is actually no border radius property for the raised button, right? So what should we do now? Because there is no raised button, there is no border radius property for the raised button, but we need it, right? So what should we do? We should Google, like people do. We will Google give border radius to raised button Flutter, and once we do that, we will get to a Stack Overflow page, and that Stack Overflow page fortunately has an answer for us. It says that okay, you do not have the border radius property, but you have something called a shape property which you can exploit in order to achieve this. So we'll just copy the code from there like good developers and we'll paste it over here. Now, as soon as we paste it over here, we can paste it in both the places. And as soon as we hit save, then our app will reload, and now magically we have our rounded corners, but we also have this red outline as in a red border. And that is what happens when you blindly copy and paste code from Stack Overflow, which you should not do. You should definitely go through that code and pick only the things that you want and leave out the rest, because if you do not understand the code that you are going to copy paste from Stack Overflow, then it will result in interesting errors. So now that we have already achieved our rounded corners thing, what we need to do is we can remove this side property that has been mentioned over here in the code that we copied. And yeah, as soon as we do that, you should be able to see that the red border is now gone. Also, as I told you earlier, I do not want too much of rounded corners, so maybe what we can do is just go with 5 instead of 18. So yeah, already looking much better. And the background color is also something that we can and should change. So we have that option, I think. Yeah, we have the color option, and we can just put it to either color teal directly, or we can use theme data to put it to as the primary color of our theme. As soon as we do that, we now have a green button, and I can just copy paste that to the reset thing also. And now, since our text looks weird, we can have a text style property that will take in a color and put the color as colors.white. Same for over here also. We can give it like this, and our app is looking much better now. So this was, I think, all about the UI part. I mean, yes, a small UI component is also going to be there after we have already fetched our responses, but we can safely move on to our backend part, that is our logical part or the functional part of the application, which will actually make the application usable. To develop the functional part of our application, we will go ahead and first explore the API that we are going to use. So you can go to this amazing website. It is called publicapis.io, and there's a hyphen in between. You can go to this website, and it has a full directory of awesome public APIs that you can use for your different projects. We can search for yes, and we will get our yes no API that we are going to use. So if I click on this, and then if I click on the official docs, it directly takes me to the API itself, right? So there is only one endpoint, and we can perform a GET request to get a response from this endpoint, and the endpoint is yesno.wtf/API. And the interesting thing is that we not only get an answer in the text form, but we also get a GIF alongside it. So that's a plus. I can just quickly copy this URL, that is the endpoint that we are going to hit from here, and then we also need the HTTP package in order to make API requests and get the responses back in our Flutter application. So I will search for HTTP on pub.dev, and now that I have it, I can go to the installing tab and copy this line from over here. Now we can go to our pubspec.yaml file, and inside our pubspec.yaml file, I can add it as a dependency. Now, two things that we can note over here is that what I follow in a standard way is that the first thing, I always give my dependencies a version. I know I could just leave it like this and it would still work, because the pubspec file would always Flutter would always fetch the latest version, but then I would not be completely in control of the versions and the dependencies that I'm adding to my project. So I almost always, not almost always, provide a version. Second, I also like to leave a comment, because see, right now we are developing a very simple web application for Flutter. It is a very simple application, but for production applications, for applications that you'll be building for your clients, for your company, in all those scenarios, in all those cases, you will have multiple dependencies, many times a lot of dependencies, and in order to manage all those dependencies, you must have comments over there, so that you are always aware of why that dependency exists in your project and what is its role. So right now we can add a simple comment which will tell us why HTTP is used in our project and what is its role. So I can just write to make API requests, and for network interaction, whatever you want, you can write over here. Now I can save it, and as soon as I save it, because I have the Flutter extension for VS Code installed, it will automatically run the Flutter pub get command for me. But you can also do that manually from the terminal by opening the terminal and the root of your project. So I can close it now. Now I should have the HTTP package. So what I can do is I can import it, import HTTP, and then I can provide it an alias. So I will have to write http.get, http.post, just in order to ensure that we do not have any conflicts inside our file. And once that is created, I will go ahead and create things that are going to manage the state of our application. So the first thing that I'm going to build is the first thing that I'm going to declare over here is a text editing controller that we are going to assign to our text field, so that we can have access to the value of the text editing controller at all times. Text editing controller for question text field, and I can write text editing controller underscore question controller. Question field controller should be more appropriate over here, I think, and then I will initialize it. So I have now initialized it. The second thing that I would like to do is have a function. So what this function will do is it will handle the process of getting a yes or no response. Okay, now I can go ahead and create the function. So it will be handle get answer. Yeah, we can change this to answers, because response may be directly related to, as in the response of an API request, which is not what we want to say over here. So I can write handle get answer, and it will be an async function because we are going to perform a network request over here. And keep this in mind always, that you should always wrap your network requests inside a try catch block, so that you can manage whenever, suppose there is no internet connection or there is some other kind of failure, you can always manage that inside your application, because your application should not crash if the network request fails. So please keep that in mind. I can have a try catch block, and the catch will give me an error message and a stack trace of the exact files that caused the error. I can just print it out for now, but you should definitely manage the state of your application in such a way that if an exception happens and it is caught by this try catch block, then you should definitely manage it and handle the UI accordingly. So inside my try block, what I'm going to do right now is I am going to have a variable of type HTTP response, and let's call it response, and that will be equal to http.get, and I will put in my endpoint that I copied from here, so I can put in my endpoint over here. Okay, so now we know for sure that we are going to get a random yes or no response accordingly, and we'll also get an image for that. So I can show you it is completely random. I think there is also a way to get a yes response always or a no response always, and in that case this forced parameter in this response JSON will be true, but we don't want that. We do not want to force anything upon our user, so we'll stick to this. Also, one interesting thing that you should do is, now see, we will make the request, we'll get the response, and that will be the end of it. But then wherever we want to use the data that we have received in this response, we'll always have to rely on we'll always have to rely on ourselves that we are writing the correct key, we are referencing the correct key in whatever place we want to use this response. So what we'll do, and what is a standard practice, is that we'll create a data model or a data class. So I can go ahead and create a models folder, and inside that we can have a answer.dart file. So inside a models folder, now I have an answer.dart file. What this class is going to do is, this class will help us in managing yes or no response data in our app. So this is a data class basically. Now we can go ahead and create the class, call it answer for now. I mean, sure, you can definitely go ahead and come up with better names, but I'm just going to call it answer, and it will have two properties. It will have the answer text final, which will be of name answer text of type string, and it will have a GIF URL. So we are also going to get the GIF URL from over here, right? So it will have another property called the GIF URL, and that we can set it like this. Now I could create the class myself, but I have this handy extension inside VS Code installed, which will create this class for me. So all I have to do is go over here and then press control full stop or dot or period, whatever you call it, control period. As soon as I hit that, I will get an option for generate data class. You can also go ahead and install this extension Dart data class generator from your VS Code extensions library, and I will simply generate the data class for me, and it has created the data class for me. So now I can easily create an object of type answer. Cool. The thing that I want to note is also, okay, so I have done an error over here. I mean, it is not an error, it is more of a personal choice. It is recommended that you keep the names of the attributes in your data class same as the attribute keys inside the response body that you are receiving. So if I'm receiving answer over here and image over here, then I should have had the same keys over here also, so that there is no confusion. So what I can do is, if I undo it, I can change this back to the keys that we are going to get in the response body, and then I can generate the data class. So now both the keys of the JSON object that we'll be getting and our data class are matching now. So inside this from map constructor, we don't have to customize it ourselves, it is already done. Now let's just first make this request and see if we are getting something back. So all I'll do is print the response body that we are getting from our request, and the next thing that we should do is inside get answer I can hook up my function over here. And please do not do this. We do not want to invoke the function as soon as the widget is being built. We want to provide a reference to this function so that whenever this on pressed event happens on the raised button, and when the button is actually pressed, then this function will be triggered. And if I save that, and now if I go to my app and I click on get answer, and then I come back to my VS Code, and if I open my console, then you should see that we have got the response. So our API request is working. Yes, that is a good sign. Our API request is working. So I'll just provide a simple check over here. Also, you can also print the status code. So to see if it was a successful request or not, most APIs will return a 200 OK status code if your request was successful. So if I click on get request, then you will be able to see that 200 is printed over here because it was a successful get request. Yeah. So what I can do is I can provide a simple check that says response dot status code is equal to 200, then and response body is not equal to null. Response dot body is not equal to null. Then in that case, what I want to do is I want to parse the JSON string that we have received. I can show that to you as well. If you print the runtime type of the response body right now, you will see that it is string. Sorry for that. You will see that it is string. So if I save it, and then when I click on get answer, you will see that the runtime type of what we are getting right now is string. But what we want is a map so that we can parse that map into our answer model that we have created for our application, right? So in order to do that, we have an interesting thing called the Dart convert library, and that does it for us. That does the JSON decoding for us. So I can have a variable of type map string dynamic, and let's just call it response body, and it will store in the decoded response body. So I can write json.decode and I can pass in the response body string like this. But as you can see that we have this red line over here because JSON, in order to use this, we also need to import that Dart convert package. So if I go to quick fix, I will have the option for importing the Dart convert library, and once that is done, we should now have a map for response body which we can pass to our answer model, and then get an answer model out of this response body map. So what we are going to do is that we are going to import our answer model, call it answer, and then what we can do is we'll write answer.from map. Also, since I have generated the data class using the generator, so it already has a from JSON named constructor as well. So what I could have done is, without decoding it manually over here, or without decoding it myself over here, I could have directly passed this response.body string inside my from JSON constructor, and it would have done the same thing. But I wanted to show you this, so let's just do it this way. And in here I will pass my response body map. So once I passed my response body map, then now I should have a answer instance that I can show to my user. So in my state, I will create another variable which will store the current answer object. So to store the current answer object, and it will be of type answer, and it will be a private variable of type current answer. So initially it will be null, yes, but as soon as we have the answer over here, what we'll do is we'll perform a set state operation and we'll get the current answer. So once we have the current answer, we can just assign it like that. Alright, so now that we have the current answer, the next step is to actually go ahead and show it. So we can then create the UI for showing this. I think that it should be somewhere in between ask a question and these get answer and reset button row. So over here I'll just copy paste this sized box, and in between this I will have a container of maybe height 250, width 250. I am hard coding it right now, but you can definitely go ahead and no, I mean the GIFs that are going to be returned are actually going to be rectangular in shape mostly. So I think we should have the width as somewhere around 400, and then we can have the height as 250. Let's just see how it looks and we can change it accordingly. So yeah, in the child, I don't want to give it a child, I want this entire thing to be an image. So I'll give it a box decoration property, and inside this box decoration property I'll give it a border radius because I want rounded corners, and I can give it border radius dot circular and 5 as the radius because I do not want a lot, I want less rounded corners, it's just that. And it also takes in an image property which takes in a decoration image, and inside the decoration image I can give it a image provider. So since we are using an image URL over here, we are going to give it a network image property, and inside over here I can give it the property of current answer dot image, right? But then again, as I told you, if the user has not pressed the button, the current answer value will always be null, right? So in that case, this should not even be displayed. So we will use something called an if statement, and it is very impactful, it is very powerful, it is very helpful, sorry. And then inside that if statement, we'll give it a property of if current answer is not equal to null. So if current answer is not equal to null, then I want to display this part of the UI. Also, there is another space that I also want to display only if current answer is not equal to null, right? So these two parts will be displayed only if the current answer is not equal to null, and as you can see right now the current answer is null, so we can't display that, right? But if you press the get answer button now, as soon as the current answer becomes not null, you will get this. And also right now I can show it to you that inside this decoration image, I mean if we quickly assign a color property to this container, let's give it colors.red, you can see that the container is this much, but the GIF is not taking the entire space available. So we do not want that, we want it to cover the entire container. What we will do is we will provide a fit property to the decoration image, and that will be set to boxFit.cover. So as soon as we do that, now whenever we have an answer on the screen, then we also will have the GIF covering the entire width and height available to it, right? That's pretty cool. And I mean the GIFs will be self-explanatory. Mostly people, just by looking at it, people will come to know that yes, it is either a yes or a no. So I mean, I don't see the point of actually going ahead and creating a text field also, but because we have it in the model and because we are fetching it, so why not? So let's do something interesting. Let's um, give let's display the text, but not somewhere else on the screen. Let's display it on the GIF itself. So what I can do for that is I can wrap this container inside a column, and then I can make that column a stack. As soon as I do that, right now there won't be any change. Right now there won't be any change. As soon as I hit get answer, it will still only be the GIF. But now what I can do is, above the container I can specify something called position.fill. It is actually a special type of position widget that I usually use, and inside that I can have an align widget and give it an alignment of alignment dot center. Oh sorry, the L should be small. Alignment dot center, and inside over here I can have a child text widget that says yes or no. So current answer dot to uppercase. I want it to be in uppercase to be very very prominent, and also I want this to have a color of white. And since it has to be prominent, I also want to give it a size of say 24. I think that should be enough. So now once everything reloads and once we have the answer, you will see that we also will have a yes or a no property. But I mean, it is in the center and it is overlapping with the visual, which is not cool. So what we can do is we can push it to be in the bottom right corner over here, but then again it is sticking to the borders, which is not correct. So inside our position widget we can actually go ahead and give it some space from the borders. So I can write 20, and from the right also I can give it 20, and now it will, so it is clear of the borders, and now that position I think is okay. And now we have our thing working. But you might have noticed that we are getting an answer without even asking a question. So that should not be the case. People should have to ask a question, and then and only then can they actually go ahead and get an answer. So let's do that now. In over here, what we want to do is, before when handle get answer is called, what we want to do is we first want to check if the person has actually asked a question. But before that we must first assign this text editing controller to the text field. Otherwise, and if we do not attach it over there, then it will not have the values that we want it to have. So inside the text field I can have a controller property and then assign the attach the controller. So in over here I can check if question field controller dot text is not equal to null, and question field controller dot text dot length is greater than 0. And one additional check that I want to add is, see, it should always be a question, and that is something that I want to make it very clear to the user, that you cannot write just anything and get away with it. I want it to be a question, and although I cannot process the language of the question and then determine if it is actually a yes or no question or not, what I can do is check for if they have added a question mark at the end or not. So what we'll do right now is, I mean, this is getting repetitive, so why not just store it? So I can create a string question text variable, and it is a good idea to actually trim the text first. So question Also, just because just in order to avoid the chance that it is actually null, I'm going to have this question operator over here. And so now I can replace this with question text, and the third check that we'll have is that if question text and question text dot length -1, that is basically we are going to extract the last character of question text if it is equal to question mark or not. Okay, so first you're going to check if the question text is not null, that is its length is greater than 0. Also it should, it should actually be greater than 1, because if someone just gives in, let's keep it 0, if someone just puts in the question mark also, then it is also a valid question, because maybe they're just questioning the void. So yeah, a small bit of philosophy there, but yeah, if basically these three conditions for us constitute a valid question, and if these are done, then we should be able to do this. But what we can do is we can convert this to a counter condition. So I can put in equal to null, or length is equal to 0, or it is the last character is not equal to question mark. So all these three conditions will now result in this if conditions passing, and that means the validity check for the question failing. And in that case, what I want to do is I don't want to do anything. I want to return the function from over here, so that the API call never happens and we do not get an answer. It is possible to get an answer, but we don't want to do it unless and until someone has actually asked a question. But shouldn't we notify the user also? So for that, what we'll do is we'll create another variable over here, and that will be a scaffold key. So it will basically be a global key of type scaffold state, and then I can call it scaffold key, and I can initialize it. So once I have initialized it, now I can assign this key to the scaffold. And now what we can do is, using this key, we can show the user a snack bar. So if I go to underscore scaffold key dot current state dot, I will have a show snack bar method over here, which will take in a snack bar instance. And now I can go ahead and show it a snack bar. It should have a, what does it have? It has a content property, which will be a text widget, and we can provide a message as please ask a valid question. Please ask a valid question. We can also modify the background color, or let's just stick with the default colors because that is appropriate, and we can give it a duration property so that this snack bar will auto dismiss after say 2 seconds. So now that we have done all of this, we can go back to our I Know Everything app. Let's just restart it to be sure, so that all the changes have reflected as we want them to. And I think they have. So now if I click on get answer, I should get this snack bar that says please ask a valid question. And if I ask a valid question, am I going to be successful in life, then also I will get this error that says please ask a valid question, because I have not put in the question mark. So now if I do this, then I will get a response, and oh, so my app says that I'm not going to be successful in life, and the GIF is also quite appropriate of my reaction. Sad life. Anyways, so the only thing that is left for us right now is to implement the reset button, which is going to be super simple. What we'll do is we'll just create a new function called handle reset operation. I'm still laughing. Why does my app that I created think that I'm not going to be successful in life? Too bad. So I'll create a handle reset operation. It won't be an async function, and all we want to do over here is we want to clear whatever we have inside our question field controller, whatever value we have. So we'll set this to a blank string, and we want to do set states to make the current answer null again. So because in order to prepare our app, or in order to prepare the state of our app for another question, and we will just plug it in over here, handle reset operation, and it should work now. So if I ask it a question, are you sure about your answers? If I click get answer, okay, my app is also not sure about its answers. That's considerable. And now if I click on reset, then this should go away, and the text field should also be automatically cleared. So if I click on reset, then it is cleared, and we are now ready to have a different question answered. Now let me just show you that this is also responsive. So I can do something like this and go ahead and ask a question, and I can ask a question like, are you a responsive web app? And if I click on get answer, then okay, it doesn't even think that it is a responsive web app. Too bad, it is. So yeah, that's there. I mean, it's working and as expected. So no problems there. Also, yeah, I think we are done over here. So we are done with our application, and it seems to be working just fine. So we have our application done. So the next part is to deploy it on the web so that anyone can go ahead and access the application that we created, and people can see our wonderful work. There are indeed multiple ways of deploying a web application, but the first thing that we would want to do is actually build our application so that we have the static files that we need in order to deploy it, right? So we'll open up our terminal and then write flutter build web. You can also write -- release, I think, and this will build your Flutter application for the web. It will generate the entire folder that you will need for hosting a web application. There are multiple ways, yes, definitely. So let me show you the way, through which we can quickly deploy our application. We'll be using something called, if you already have Node.js installed, you can also deploy it using Surge almost instantly. But we can also create a Firebase application. We can deploy it on GitHub pages. We can do a lot of different things. But the easiest way, I think, would be to deploy it on Netlify right now. That's the simplest way. Anyways, so what we can do is, if you had created a Git repository at the beginning, and if you have a Git repository for this project or any project, then a lot of these services that allow you to deploy your web applications can directly fetch the assets of your deployment from your Git repository. So as soon as you do git push, they will deploy your application. But since we didn't do that in this tutorial, what we'll do is, now that we have built our project, we can go to the build folder, and inside that there is the web folder. This has all the files that we need for deploying our web application, and these are the files that we'll be deploying. So I can open up a new Google Chrome window, then I can go to netlify.com. Now I already have an account on netlify.com, but you can simply sign up over here. It is really simple, and I'm going to what I'm going to show you right now is a manual deployment. So I can log into my Netlify account. Hopefully it will remember me, and I already have a ton of sites. And what we want to do right now is we want to do a manual deployment. So as soon as you reach your Netlify dashboard, you will have an option over here in the bottom, right? What you can do is you can just go to your projects folder, find the project that you created. Let me find my project. So I know everything is the project that I created. Now inside my build folder there is this web folder, and I want to deploy this entire web folder. Okay, what we can do for that is we can simply drag and drop our web folder over here inside Netlify, and it will automatically start the deployment process. So as you can see that currently the process is uploading. So the deploy is in progress right now, and it has already given us a domain also. It is already assigned as a domain. We can change that. We can also go ahead and create a custom domain. I can edit the site name from over here. I can name the site to I know everything. I hope that's available. I know everything .netlify.app. So because I am going to take this, I don't think it will be available for you, so you'll have to choose a different name. So is the site deployed? I don't know. Let's see. So the deployment is still in progress, but as soon as this is complete, as soon as the uploading is complete, and as soon as the deployment is complete, you will be able to access the website directly from I know everything .netlify .app. Right now if you go to this, I think it will give you a page not found because the site deploy is still in progress. It is still uploading. So let's wait for it, and once that is done, you will get to visit the website and interact with the web application. Another quick way to deploy it is using Surge. So if you have Node.js already installed on your machine, then you can go ahead and install Surge. It is a quick deployment command line interface. So you can just do npm install -g for global install of Surge, and if you have that, then you can just go to your build folder, and then you can go to your web folder, and once inside your web folder wherein your index.html file is there, what you can just do is hit Surge, and as soon as you type Surge and click enter and hit enter, then it will automatically give you a domain and it will automatically deploy your website. So as you can see, it is uploading the website and it will deploy the website in no time, and your web app will now be accessible for the entire world on this domain that it has automatically assigned to you. So it has already published my website, and now if I go to this domain, I can see that my website will load. So as you can see, I know everything is loading now, and as soon as the initial load time is complete, we will be able to interact with our application. So for the first time it may take some time because it has just deployed and the CDN is being set up and everything. So it is loading right now. So now when you visit the domain that Surge assigned to us, you should be able to get this website that we created using Flutter. How exciting is that? And if I don't ask a question, I still get the snack bar, and if I ask a question, are you deployed, then I should get an answer. So as soon as I hit get answer, I should get an answer, And yes, so the web app knows that we are deployed and it has told us so. And if I click on reset, then it is reset. And now we have a completely working deployed web application that is not just a piece of UI but an interactive web application that we created from scratch using Flutter for Web. And we also have it deployed on a global domain which we can share with our friends, family, and potential employers to show them that yes, we can create projects like these. I know it was a very simple project, but I hope that it would have given you an insight into how you can develop complete web applications using Flutter. And I can't wait to see what you create with Flutter Web. It is so exciting, and all the best. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much.